I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking all about inflammation. After doing this podcast for many, many years, everything we do is to reduce inflammation. Today, we're talking about those specific steps in one podcast episode, what we can do really from a foundational piece here to reduce inflammation, which is then going to help with your egg quality and with the health of the sperm. So excited for you to listen to today's episode. Let's go. Hey, Kellie, excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's always just such a pleasure.
Awesome. Great. Well, if you could share with our listeners really how you came to do this work.
Oh my gosh, I'd absolutely love to. I really started in this health and wellness space almost 30 years ago, which just seems impossible. With a background in physical therapy, always had an interest in health, wellness, medicine. My parents really wanted me to go to actually med school, but I knew I just wanted to be able to help people in a different way. So I started off in the field as a physical therapist, worked for hospitals, ran hospitals, and then had my own private client and clinic for many years. And over the past probably 10 years, I saw a missing component in the people I was seeing because I really was taking control of my health and knew that at 40, there needed to be some changes. And so I really wanted to look what was I doing in my life. And over the past 10 years, build a life of health, wellness, longevity. And what it came down to is really healing my body from the inside out. And so today I now have online programs for women in health and wellness, longevity. We take a look at people's genes and really just having a lot of fun. Because I think a lot of women think that just they're overlooked by our current medical society, and they're a little bit put aside. And I always want to bring hope that that's absolutely not the case. And these bodies are a true miracle if we can give it what it needs.
Exactly. I love it. Awesome. So, yeah, today we're talking about inflammation, which is basically everything we do from a functional medicine, functional nutrition. So it's like the catch-all inflammation piece. But really, it's so important because we see so many people getting diagnosed with, diminished ovarian reserve, premature ovarian insufficiency. They're experiencing recurrent miscarriage, and then they're running off to the fertility clinic. I don't think anyone goes to the fertility clinic on their first step. That's where I want to go, but that's where they're told to go. And then meanwhile, they have low grade or maybe chronic inflammation, which that can be causing issues with their hormones, issues with their embryo development, egg quality. So all of this stuff is really important to be able to, before you go heading to an IVF. And it's great that they're getting it covered by companies and things like that, but that's a big push from big pharma. So like there's no the lobby groups for fresh food and healthy fruits and vegetables and proper meats and things like that. There's no lobby group for that to say there is lobby groups for some of that, but that's the foundation of health, right? And so today we're going to talk about how to reduce inflammation and really what you can do. But yeah, so let's just talk about, first of all, like, what is inflammation and how can that lead to disease, or in this case, issues with fertility.
Absolutely. No, thanks so much. And honestly, you're right. Inflammation now is like out there. And I think people know like inflammation is the big baddie and it leads to all these diseases. But because it's just kind of thrown out there now, a lot of people are like, yeah, right? Like, oh, inflammation. Yeah. Well, what do I do about it? Well, first of all, inflammation is a natural process of the body that we need, but we have chronic inflammation and acute inflammation. And if we first just look at acute inflammation, that is when we get in an injury, right? Let's just say you are out and about, you twist your ankle balloons up, right? That inflammation is a protective mechanism and is a very important part of the healing process. The second part is really this chronic inflammation that so many of us have no idea that our bodies are full of it. Like, what do you mean? Where did we get it? How did we get it? What are we supposed to do to get rid of it? Why does it even affect me? And this low grade or chronic inflammation ultimately starts shutting down the natural processes of the body. This is telling the body like, oh, hold back, don't do this. And so whether you're trying to conceive, whether you're just trying to have a better night's sleep, whether maybe you're struggling like with an autoimmune, this low level inflammation could be the thing that's preventing your body from being able to have the natural process take place in the manner in which we should. And I think what we don't understand is certain foods give us inflammation. EMS can give us inflammation. Toxicity and pollutants in the world can give us inflammation. Poor food choices, right? Like whether it's sugar or trans fats. I mean, my goodness gracious, I laugh because my kids always think like, Mom, my friends eat out with their families like probably 4 to 5 meals a week. They're like, they never sit down at the dinner table. And I'm like, how did we get so far off course? Because not only is food information for our bodies and it fuels us, and that food tells us what to do in a lot of processes, but also just that sitting down, taking a beat, being mindful, enjoying our food together. I know myself, I'll say 10 years ago and beyond, I was just go, 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 the rat race and never really sitting still. And I think for women, it's a really hard time because let's just call it, 40 years ago, about all of a sudden, 30, 40 years ago, we could do it all versus before it was you can be a teacher or a nurse or a secretary, something like that. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, you can do it all. So here, take this responsibility of working full time and managing your family and your household and taking care of aging parents and therefore we never ever are slowing down, in which to help get rid of that inflammation, we need this rest time, downtime, because otherwise our hormones, our neurotransmitters are so out of whack that we cannot get this inflammation really under control. And so then it's just kind of like, give me the next thing, right? Like, what's wrong with me? No, let's actually reduce your stress, get you eating the right foods, work on your sleep. Let's really start to get rid of this low grade inflammation. And maybe just that in and of itself will be what your body needs.
Yeah, because a lot of times we're like, searching for that next supplement or that miracle side of things of what we can do to, improve our reproductive health. A lot of it is, the foundational pillars of the right diet, working on movement, not too much, not too little, sleep, making sure you get some sleep, because a lot of people are waking up in the middle of the night or having a hard time falling asleep or just exhausted, needing coffee and, other kind of energy drinks to keep themselves rolling along all day long. And then also, yeah, looking at your stress piece. And our whole thesis on this is it actually early menopause or is it your adrenals? And so,
Yeah.
so as we work on that and we prop things up, your immune system, lo and behold, your reproductive health comes back online. So what are you seeing as some anti-inflammatory foods to add and what are you saying some ones to avoid?
Yeah. Oh gosh. So, I think if we can really try to make things simple, is the number one thing, probably two things for inflammation is sugar. And sugar is in so many foods that I think people forget. Like, I'm not talking about just donuts and cookies, right? But really looking at, is that food that you're eating nutritious? Or is it just bread that's honestly full of sugar and it really has very little nutritional value? So when I think about having an anti-inflammatory diet and really some food choices is really looking at, the rainbow, looking at all the polyphenols, looking at your fruits and vegetables and having a variety. I'm really heavy on the vegetables and on fruits, like pick mostly your berries, right? There is a lot of fruits, unfortunately, that have a pretty high sugar content. I would say like things like grapes are one of the biggest misnomers out there. Like, oh,
I
they're
just
so
said it
yummy.
before coming on this call. I'm like, oh, I had a plum and some grapes. I'm like, these grapes, I gotta tell you, I don't have them a lot, but I got them the other day and they're organic. And usually the organic ones are mushy and half dead. There's like a small window when these things are like so delicious. But yeah, I literally will have when I had a continuous glucose monitor on for about 14 days just to track to see. And it was cherry season. Holy crap, those cherries just spike it like bananas. Bananas would spike it too. But yeah, it's interesting to see. Then you look at your body and how that impacts your glucose, and that we see blood sugar issues are off, and when that's off, that impacts your ovulation and the body's ability to implant. So yeah, the sugar pieces, you want the low glycemic stuff, but again, sometimes people do all this like taking out all the fruits, and I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either. And actually, Sarah, I would recommend for a lot of your audience, it's really inexpensive now to go get a glucose monitor. I used it for a couple months and I really wanted to see, how traveling affect not just food, but so many other things affect it. And now that I know what are my triggers, now if I'm not feeling good, I might go, oh, yeah, that's right. I ate that. I did that. And now I know. But even just really small strategies, right? After you're eating your meal, to go for a short walk or have a little movement. There's some very easy things, but I believe that data, it's easy to tell somebody something and they're like, okay, okay. But when they see their own data, then they're like, oh, now I get it, right? So that actually is a great suggestion because it's just very eye-opening because I don't think we've ever looked at food that way. And metabolic health is one of the number one indicators for overall health, which I'm sure you probably talked about affecting fertility.
Absolutely. So anything, so which ones are you like we have people do an elimination diet, taking out the top allergens for 10 days and then systematically reintroducing them. So dairy, gluten, soy, corn, peanuts, eggs, processed sugar, alcohol 10 days and then reintroduce over 30 and then typically take out dairy and gluten for 60 to 90 and tweak it with food sensitivity testing so you can really tailor the diet because there's a lot of people doing carnivore and paleo and vegan and keto and jumping on the bandwagon with all these different fad diets, which to me just waste time. So, the elimination diet is the gold standard. But yeah, anything else as far as,
That's
anti-inflammatory foods? What are you
It's
saying?
so funny that you said that, Sarah, because in my physical therapy practice, I saw lots of people with concussions. And what you just described is exactly what we put because people have brain inflammation from their concussion. And people have no idea the impact of, yes, we just talked about sugar, but they have no idea the impact of gluten and dairy and how inflammatory they are. I actually have the celiac gene, so I've eliminated them out of my diet like and forever. And I would say those are just things that I love Dr. Casey Means. If you look at the real whole food and actually there is certain milks and cheeses today that aren't processed that actually are probably okay. And especially if you travel in other countries, we here have changed and modified things so much, our bodies just don't know what they are. And that's what gluten has done to us is our body has no idea what this thing is. And when people ask, well, why dairy and gluten? And yes, dairy is inflammatory, but the other thing, just to make sure your audience understands, is the molecule of dairy and the molecule of gluten almost look identical. So when you put them in the body sometimes has molecular mimicry and they doesn't know which is which. So therefore, when we're really talking about being serious and eliminating things, you just have to do both because most people are just they're a little bit more hesitant to give up like their cheeses and things like that in terms of dairy. And I just tell people, honestly, it's just not that bad. Just make a choice and it's just not even that bad.
Yeah,
So
and usually the thing you're like, I could never give up my cheese, or like if I had never could give up my bread. Usually that's the thing you're most intolerant to because you're addicted to it. So like it shouldn't be that like I could never live without something. Like obviously we all need, food, but that's like an addictive quality in some of these foods, right? And same when I travel to Europe, like I don't do gluten or dairy here, but when I go there, I can have dairy and not be like feeling like trash. Like I had some I yeah, locally I've found some ice cream and I was so excited. It was like gelato and blah blah blah. Then I'm like, I forgot to add, last time I had it, I was like, well, maybe something else gave me a problem because I had horrible digestive issues. I don't really get that thing going on. Then I realized they were using oat milk in the damn thing. I'm like, people are like pounding down this oat milk, and if you have a sensitivity to gluten, and we see it across the board, non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and oat milk it still has cross reactors with gluten. People think oat is gluten free. No, even gluten free oats, people can still have reactions to that. So I had this oat, and I went back there again on the weekend, and I had this time I had a lemon gelato. She's like, oh, it's just got water in it. And again, not as a higher reaction, but still a reaction. I'm like, yeah, because they probably use the same machine with the oat milk, dum dum. And so then I had problems with it. And I'm like, I don't want to spend, $4 for a gelato and feel like garbage. Sorry,
that's
my
right.
like my health is now. And the thing is, a lot of times we go around. Most people we work with, probably similar to you, people aren't like sick. They're not lying in their bed, in their deathbed, but they're just not at their optimal health. And so many times we have all these things, we're propping ourselves up with medication. Maybe we get sick all the time because our immune system is down, and then the whole thing for reproductive health, we want to boost everything up. And if we're just trying to keep you alive because you got all this low grade inflammation, like we're talking about today, that can be a reason why it's not working. And so, digging into the diet piece is key.
It is. And before we leave that, let me just also say, when I was really changing and making sure I wasn't having gluten and dairy in my diet, one of the things that I kind of was like, oh, I can eat potatoes But where I'll go with this is when you're going out to eat, everything is going to be fried in all the, fat, saturated bad fats, you guys. And so canola oil, vegetable oil, corn oil. Oh my gosh. So you honestly going out to eat is almost impossible unless you know that restaurant intimately to make sure they're not using those oils. But I mean, a very, very small percent of restaurants are really investing to make sure they're either using right avocado oil, the highest olive oil, whether they're looking, using ghee for you versus just butter. So really just tell yourself, I'm going to take control of my health with food. I will prepare my food. Because if you're hungry and you're not ready and you're not prepared, then it's like, I'll just go through the drive through and get this thing once. But that they say those trans fats technically are worse than smoking. Like they are so bad for the body that it's going to take not just a day to get rid of that out of your body, it can take weeks to get rid of that out of your body.
Yeah, like I've been eating this way for like over 13, 14 years. And it's interesting. And before, like, yeah, I used to go to the drive through. I'd be like, oh, I got to get this. But that actually, we think it's fast. It's still faster for you at home to make an egg sandwich, like, or to have eggs with tomato on a salad and whatever, sweet potato or something like that. It's still faster for you to go to your stove. Now, I'm a major foodie, so it's not about you not going out, but you need to, select your restaurants and hopefully like the chains and things like that. They just, yeah, it's got those seed oils and causing inflammation in our body. But we don't want to go too crazy here because you got people just not even going out of their house because they can't eat anything and they're not seeing their friends because everyone's got a baby and there's so much triggering and then we feel more isolated and we stay at home and then stuff. So it is, you got to be careful of the allergens there, but it's not about locking yourself in and not going out and enjoying food because that can suck.
That can suck. And honestly, there are a lot of places today that are offering amazing options. So be resourceful, like ask questions, ask your friends, ask, research. There's a lot of options for you. Don't think like, oh, then I just shouldn't go out to eat because we don't want that, like you said, either. We want to be social and have community and, enjoy life, have fun. Because if you're not enjoying or having fun, that in and of itself is creating more undue stress, i.e., here comes this cascade of things, right?
Exactly. And even doing, having dinners with other couples or girlfriends, things like that. And you can, because years ago I'd be like, oh, I'm not doing these top allergens. And people are like, I don't know what to eat, what I don't know what to bring. And now everyone's like, oh, I'm dairy free, I'm gluten free, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. And we all bring something that we can all eat. And it's usually, a meat with a veggie and a little, maybe a carb and some oil. Like it's not, it doesn't need to be some complicated thing. Okay, and so what about exercise here? What are you seeing that's going to help inflammation with exercise?
Oh, great question. I love exercise. I love fitness, and I definitely have come full circle from my life of running, triathlons, super hardcore to now so much walking, yoga, some weight training. So in terms of inflammation, exercise is one of those things that has a lever that in the middle, this little balance of exercise is good, but a little bit too much exercise is going to lead to increased stress, increased inflammation, and you do need to know your body because people actually do respond quite differently to exercise. But in terms of your audience, some things that I would 100% recommend to help decrease inflammation, but keep the body moving. Our bodies were meant to move, everyone. I mean, so much movement has been missing these last many years with all of us doing so much sitting, i.e. here, Sarah and I are, you guys sitting for this podcast. But lots of walking. Walking is your best friend. Like move your body, walk, walk, walk. The second thing I would say is a form of yoga. Find some form of yoga that you're stretching, you're working on flexibility, stretching, balance, you're helping your organs, I prefer it hot. Some people don't like it hot, so that's your choice. But again, that really helps the body open up. You can do small exercises like even just standing on vibe plates and just doing some gentle movements, standing on a vibe plate, getting your body moving. We really do need to be able to incorporate what will work for you. Movement is essential. I always say you want to be able to have small habits like you can stack. There's so many books out there, right, on habit stacking, whether you're talking about James Clear or so many, but do something that you will do That's really important. Although, just be careful you're not that person that says, well, I'll go to the gym and exercise like crazy for 90 minutes. If you're probably trying to conceive and you're looking to reduce inflammation, you're struggling, that's probably not where you need to be. But it could be swimming, it could be some gentle cycling. I'd be careful about that, I don't know, maybe that cycle class that you get excited about and overstress yourself. But if you like to ride your bike, if you like to swim, all those things are really great. But you definitely need to be in moderation in this time. I mean,
Yeah.
I will say I've had women that do CrossFit and do all these things. They're still conceiving, but they're not the ones struggling, right? If you're struggling, then I would probably say that's not for you unless that's been you all along and you're being monitored by the doctor that your cortisol's not through the roof.
Right, because we see people doing the CrossFit and and having them be able to they're like, I could never give it up. I've been doing it for 20 years. Well, why is my AMH, practically bottoming out? And yeah, we're looking at your adrenals and they're flatlined, and then you don't want to give it up. So it is to have an open mind about these things. Yeah, walking. I've recently got back into Pilates because I was doing walking and I'm like, okay, I need to do more than walking. This is getting ridiculous. I need to get some strength stuff going in there. So I did yoga for a number of years. We don't recommend hot yoga for people. It's like, especially if your adrenals are fried, like that's can be
Yeah,
too
too
much.
much.
But yeah, and what was that? What was that Vibe plate you were talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, go on Amazon. There's all sorts of them. They used to, be like $2,000. Now you can buy them for like $50. But just literally look up Vibe plate, vibration plate, and if you just stand on it, it helps your lymphatics. It helps, your circulatory system. It helps really all your joints in your proprioception. It's really, really great. So I have one I actually keep in my bathroom, believe it or not. So I do it while I'm brushing my teeth. After I brush my teeth, I go through and do my little like lymphatic drainage while I'm on it as well. So that I'm on it for a good like 10 minutes. And maybe I'll just stand there. Maybe I'll do some squats or some leg exercises. But that in and of itself is waking up the nervous system first thing in the morning, right? Kind of working with that circadian rhythm of getting your sunlight, getting up, letting your body know, hey, let's get everything ramped up, in finding that little movement. That's not necessarily my exercise for the day, but it's some of my movement getting my body going for the day that I would really recommend.
So it's vibrating while you're doing some pose. Okay, neat.
Exactly.
Like you jumping on the rebounder, you get that done when you're brushing your teeth, right? The rebounder.
Yeah, your toothpaste might go everywhere if you're trying to do your rebounder and brush your teeth at the
Yeah.
same.
Okay. And so also with inflammation, so stress, which, it's not about hiding from stress, it's how do we be able to adapt and cope and actually even recognize that we're stressed to begin with. Because sometimes people on the fertility journey are like, I'm working 50 hours a week. I'm also doing IVF and it hasn't worked. I'm each cycle. And then maybe, they say to yourself, now is a good time to start a graduate program. I can't tell you how many people are like, I'm going to start a graduate program now. No, now is not the time to add all these things in because you want your baby. You're going to, sidetrack yourself by doing, studying for the graduate program. And then you just stress yourself out even more. So what do you see in as far as some stress management techniques to help with inflammation?
Oh, wow, Sarah, this is where I think every single human being, but specifically women, really need to take a true inventory on what are you doing in your life to manage yourself in stress, de-stress, and have time for doing nothing. This is for eons ago in the history. If you look all around the world, many people had so many time of rest and time for just community and time to do nothing. And somehow we became this nation of doers and no rest. And I was one of them. I'm a recovered doer, I will say, because I used to think that, if somebody were just, reading a book in the hammock, like what a waste of time. You're so lazy. Like I'm like, what are you doing? How are you sitting on the couch watching a movie for 2 hours? And I'm not saying we all just need to sit all day and do nothing. Absolutely not. But we need to be able to find time in our morning and time sometime later in the day of letting our mind be at peace, giving our mind a bath, letting go of all the things. I really tell people, like, you need to find what you will do and what's going to work for you. It might be meditation. You might be somebody that says, oh my gosh, no. Remember, the mind, just like your heart is meant to beat, your mind is meant to think. It's not supposed to have no thoughts. It's going to have thoughts. How do you just sit there, bring yourself together, and allow the time to think more clearly, let go of your, to-dos. If you're thinking about the past, that's going to lead you down that line of depression and stress. If you're, thinking about the future, that's going to give you anxiety and more stress. So, how in a given day do you just be more present and centered with where you are right now, today, and enjoy that moment? So, having a small practice in the morning, because I believe if you set your day up for success in the morning, you're going to be much more successful the rest of the day. So, whether that means a 90-second meditation, whether it means 5 minutes in your gratitude journal, whether it means reading your book for 2 pages, 10 minutes, whatever that is, get something done in the morning to really set the pace of the day so that you're not at everybody else's beck and call. Between phone calls, messages, notifications, our mind is the most distracted thing, and our attention goes everywhere. We have to be able to create barriers and boundaries of turn off your notifications. Certain times of the day, you're not answering your phone, right? Like it's up to us. You can let yourself be haywire of, oh, I have to respond here. My neighbor needs my help. My kid needs this. I got to go pick up. You can create that life, or you can create more boundaries for you to live a much more peaceful, healthier life. Because otherwise, you're kind of playing this role of, oh, I'm just going to help everybody. Like, then you're not helping yourself. We need to help ourselves first, right? Put on the life mask, the mask on the airplane yourself first. And then later in the day, talking about stress management, just ask yourself, what do you love and what do you need? Meaning, maybe you just love a cup of tea and you haven't sat down for 20 minutes and enjoyed an amazing cup of tea in forever. Maybe you really love reading, but you've just gone to Audible because it's easier and you can do it while you're cooking and everything else. No, go back to 20 minutes of sitting in your favorite chair and reading your book. Maybe it's, I used to like walk the dogs and listen to a podcast, like, and now I just walk my dogs for 20 minutes in the morning and enjoy nature. And I ask myself, what am I hearing? Oh my gosh, the birds, the leaves going, right? What do I feel? I feel my, shirt on my skin, and I'm feeling my feet, and just really attached to your senses. So I would really ask yourself, if you don't have a small practice in the morning and something to reset yourself in the afternoon or evening, going to bed, one of the two, an afternoon or evening, then whatever level of stress you have, you're adding to it the next day, and you're adding to it the next day, versus, can I reset? Can I reset so we can live like this in this nice little, wave of up and down? I know people can't really see me, versus this spiking of horrid stress. I better go on a retreat. Horrid stress. I better go to the spa for the day. It's like, we can't live that way. So find what works for you. But this area is literally 100% necessary for us to manage this long-term inflammation in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. It is it's not about like, yeah, the spa, like this one-offs where I'm going to wait until vacation a couple times a year. And when I speak to people all the time, they tell me, how's your stress? Horrible. My stress is terrible. It's absolutely like off the charts here because, yeah, say to yourself, do I need to really attend every meeting I'm invited to? I don't think so. You can decline that. You can make meetings 15 minutes. They don't need to be an hour. It's being able to set, in your work schedule. Maybe you got a toxic workplace, a demanding boss, all these things. It's not about quitting, although sometimes you work with people and they have to quit. Because the job no longer serves you, because maybe you waited there longer than you thought because you thought you were going to go on mat leave, and then you were going to leave, and here you are, and you're still trying to have your baby. But it's like, how do we, with our current job, put some boundaries on it and have those little respites, like you said, kind of throughout the day. And I like that walking too thing, the walking piece. I walk with my husband usually most days, or I was just up north by myself a little while and we're walking with the dog and there was the geese and all this sort of stuff. And I was like watching the dog. I'm like, oh, look at her. She's like sniffing. She's just looking. Sometimes she's like, I don't want to walk anymore. I'll see you later. But yeah, it is interesting to be able to, because then I'll see people, on the phone listening to a thing. I'm like, I don't bring my phone with me. I just like, I don't need to be, I'm on a 20-minute walk, 20 minute to a half an hour walk. Like what's going to happen? Obviously I'm walking around my neighborhood, but even waking up, right? People grab their phone the first thing. I was doing that for a little while recently because I was at a different location and I'm like, oh, I just grabbing the phone. And then I'm like down a Twitter rabbit hole. I'm like, what am I doing? Starting with like junk. Like, I don't listen to the news typically. That sort of stuff is just depressing. But it's sort of seeing how you set your day up. And if you set your day up with something positive, feeling good. Mine actually is like I just when I'm wherever I am actually, I'll just spend a little bit of time putting on my creams. I have like a I got like a face roller. I'm putting on cream. I'm looking out the window. I'm just kind of like just putting sunscreen on. I don't know. I take some time to load up the creams, and I like that. So yeah, I kind of feel it doesn't need to be some. I need to practice meditation all day long. Yeah.
Yes. And I think if we can have, I mean, you were really just demonstrating like gratitude for all of it. Like, oh, it's healing my skin and it feels so good and really being present. We honestly should be that way. And I know it's impossible to be that way all the time, but when we have our food, thank you for this food, taste the food. It's so delicious. Experience the food versus shove it in our mouth. Many of us women are putting on, have a skincare regime and things like that. And like, enjoy that process of doing it. All those things, the more you can enjoy, have love, joy, that will supersede any stress to calm down inflammation is, how can you get more love and joy in your heart? Honestly, it sounds, like hokey, but truly is the truth.
Yeah, and so you see when you're kind of out of alignment. I find if I'm super stressed and I'm like a very I'll become an extremely aggressive driver. I'll be like tailgate, like, why is this person in my way? And then I'll find that my neck starts getting like tense, or I'm like, my husband, he just breathes, and I'm like, what are you doing? So like sort of see your little triggers, or like, wait a minute, something's a little out of alignment. How do we pull back? Because it's not about everybody else being an asshole. It's typically you. So, so you need to be able to pull back and see what is it you can, where have you not put yourself first? And maybe you need more sleep, more rest, and time by yourself to read that book. Find a nice book that's, you don't want to read nonfiction before bed to learn. I guess then you don't need to be productive. It's supposed to be just enjoying, right?
Enjoying. In this whole vein, the one thing that I see that I didn't realize, and now women are like, oh my gosh, you're so right, is not being able to make a decision. And I'll give you an example of what I mean is you're invited out. Hey, a group of us are getting together. Can you come? And your answer is, oh, let me see. Your answer is not yes or no. It's maybe I'll try. But then you say I'll try to many things. And then all day long, oh, I should go to this thing. Oh gosh, I'm supposed to, my kid's party. Should I go? Like, then there's all this angst because you said, I'll try. You just make it's best for you. It's going to serve you and the others. So the others are they coming? Are they not coming? They will actually appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much for the offer. I'm not going to be coming tonight. With no explanation needed, you will go, oh my God, that felt so good. When's the last time you've told yourself, no, thank you, I'm not coming, I'm going to decline, whatever it is? That permission is amazing and it will help you just feel great. But many of us are like, oh, I don't want to let someone so down. Should I go? Will I miss out? I don't know. And so you get stuck in this limbo mode. And that limbo of indecision is one of the things that truly drives inflammation in your body.
Yeah, we don't need, it's like full stop, yes or no. We don't be like, no, because of this. Like, nobody cares. Like, just say no. And if someone wants to inquire as to, what's going on, then they can quietly inquire and you can decide what you want to tell them. But yeah, we don't need to have a no but or the blah, 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 all these excuses, right? It's just, like, it's either a yes or no, go. Like, I don't know. I'm like quick with a decision. So, but I know a lot of people, this is something they struggle with, right? So, because it's that pleasing side of thing where like, oh,
Yes,
yeah, but
people
everybody else,
pleasing.
and, being able to put yourself first is, especially before, mother yourself now before before your child comes, putting yourself first, bringing joy to stuff you want to do now. Maybe you don't want to hang out with those people. See ya. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
right.
let's talk about sleep. I've done many podcasts on sleep, so we can dig into that. But sleep, to me, it's the cornerstone of health and healing. And we got so many people on medications. They can't sleep. They wake up and then they, in the middle of the night, they're dragging their butt in the morning. And so all of that is impacting your health, your reproductive health. Like, we've got to, and it's not about you pounding down more melatonin or more sleep aids. We have to, get to the bottom of why your sleep's out to begin with. But what are you seeing around sleep?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You hit that. And sleep is one of the things that is my number one. Like, if people are going to pick any area, like, dial in your sleep. So, because you guys have already talked a lot about sleep, let me just give you like my kind of like number one, two, three tips on sleep. having a wind down routine is critical because a lot of times people hit the pillow, then their mind is like, oh, I should do this, I should do this, blah, 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 and then this does not set yourself up for a great sleep, right? So have a really nice wind down routine of stopping you're not going to have an important discussion with your spouse right before you're going to sleep, or watch that TV show that's like exciting, or a book that you're like so educational you're just sharing about, right? So really be careful on, it's a lot of people are saying this whole rule of 3-2-1. Don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed. Don't do anything super important or where you're stimulating your mind 2 hours before bed. And really, before bed, turn your lights down, watch your blue light, get off your screens. Just as a rule of thumb, like program that in your phone. So every night at whatever time, your phone just dims down. It's a done deal. That if you can just and tell your family, like, this is what I'm going to do. I had a lot of moms want to go like, well, I don't want to get ready for bed. I want to make sure my kids are okay. And this is okay. And this is okay. I'm like, no. You tell them, hey, I'm going to be going down to bed at this time. You pick your time. Do you guys need anything else from me? Are you guys good? Because once I go upstairs or once I go in my room, unless it's an emergency, like I'm good for the night, don't come get me. And it's like, oh my God, I can do that. I can tell my family like I'm checked out for the day. Yes. And you can, and you should. That is a great process. Now, a lot of times it's just like the spouse, right? Like, what is the spouse doing? Going to bed, not going to bed. So talk about it, communicate about that routine. And then the second thing is like indulge a little bit in your stuff in your bed, your mattress, your sheets, make them fun, make it look like it's a hotel room. Like, I love my bed. I can't wait when I'm traveling to be like back in my sheets and my mattress. And you should feel that way too. So take a little investment in your sheets, in your mattress, make it super, fun to look at, cozy to sleep in. And those two things I think will go a long way with really helping sleep, because the physiological part of sleep is 100% true of what you said. This is where our body literally repairs. And if you're not sleeping, you can't repair, then you're just setting yourself up for a cascade of inflammation.
Yeah, making sure it's cool in there with like good like organic sheets that are breathing, and like a duvet that you're not like suffocating in there, and there's like a fan and things like that, right? Because sometimes we're in these, depending on your house, right? It can be so like insulated. You're like, oh, it's just hot, and then you've got this synthetic covers on your your sheets, and so it is. Yeah, having the same too. I like having my organic my sheets. I haven't got the mattress. I ended up getting just a conventional mattress, but yeah, you can go down a nice rabbit hole of beautiful, organic mattresses where you can check all that out. But yeah, sleep is where we spend like a lot of our time. If you're snoring and you things like that, you've got to do sleep studies and be able to look at that mouth tape and, things like that to help. So what are you seeing around, let's talk about sort of from a genetic standpoint, what are you seeing with the NRF2 gene? You're talking about the role of managing inflammation. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so just to start, before I even share with you the NRF2 pathway and inflammation, is, our body does have natural processes to help us get rid of this inflammation. We shouldn't be having this chronic low-grade inflammation. And we have genes that do that in our body. Some of us, our genes are maybe stronger than others, maybe do a better job than others, but our body naturally should be doing that for us. Of course, as we're exposed to the world and toxins and everything else we just talked about, Sarah, that starts to slow down that process of our body being able to fight off inflammation. But we have genes that can turn back on or off. And normally people are saying that, genes don't determine your fate. It's your lifestyle, it's your food, and that is the truth. And so there is a pathway in our body. It's called NRF2. So it's actually the letters N as in Nancy, R as in Roger, F as in Frank, and the number 2. And that pathway is responsible as the master regulator of gene expression. So ultimately, we want our genes clean. We don't want our genes dirty. If you want clean genes, if you want your good genes to be working well and your bad genes to be kept off or quiet, then that pathway you want to keep that optimized. People haven't really been talking about it. People didn't even know about it until about 20 years ago. But when they did the whole human genome project and mapped out the genes, and they found this pathway, NRF2, and that's what it's supposed to do in the body, which is amazing. But again, as we age in our environment, that pathway can start to dull down or turn down and not be as efficient or functioning. Originally, it was how do we activate NRF2? So, by food was one of the ways people really started to try to activate that pathway. One of the biggest things, or the most profound things as far as food, was sulforaphane. So, the active ingredient in broccoli and cauliflower is what people were using. But as food has it, food can give us a little bit of a response to things, but it isn't as powerful as we wish it could be sometimes, especially in the quality of our foods today. So, people have been looking at how do you activate this pathway in other ways. So, there's a variety. If you search in Google, you'll find all sorts of NRF2 activators really on the market. But there's only been one that I have found that's been really clinically proven to reduce this oxidative stress. And if you look at the studies of gene regulation, it can upregulate that gene of your anti-inflammatory gene by over 50% in less than 30 days. So I just tell people, I've not seen anything out there that can activate at the level of your genes like this can, nor do you want to be, I mean, when we take things like ibuprofen, that's really to get rid of some acute inflammation. That is not going to get rid of your chronic inflammation, nor does your organs want to thank you if you take a lot of that, right? So this can upregulate your own pathway to support your body's production of anti-inflammatory process. And that's what we want. We want our body to do the work. That's this whole thing of you may need something to activate processes, but that's what we want to do. People are doing it with other things like mitochondrial health, right? They're activating mitochondrial health, whether it's through thermogenesis of heat or cold, or taking some other products. But this NRF2 pathway, honestly, it's probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in the history of medicine in realizing that if we can regulate our genes, then that's like the mothership, because who doesn't want their good genes to be working as well as possible and their bad genes to be kept off? So the link to inflammation is huge if you can really activate that pathway.
Yeah, we have genetic testing as part of our method as well, and be able to like really fine tune this piece. Is there a brand that you recommend for that, of that supplement?
Yeah, so the best brand that has all the research on it is called Protandem NRF2. And if any of you out there really love the science and research, if you want to go to pubmed.gov, it's the National Library of Medicine, you will find about 28 peer-reviewed studies on that. And it's really just profound, because normally you cannot find all natural products that are researched on PubMed. And what I truly love about that product, Sarah, is that not only is there research from around the world, but really they're just using herbal ingredients in microdosing, but in the perfect blend. So it's not like you or I can just go to the store and buy 5 things and blend it up ourselves, right? There's years of research behind it to find the exact perfect recipe. So like why, try to mess with the recipe?
Awesome. And how often are you taking that? What does it look like, I guess, for dosage and things like that? What are you saying?
Yeah, it's super simple. It's just one press pill. You take one a day. Very, very easy. And I just tell people, if you want everything else you're taking, whether it's the food, the supplements, whatever else you're doing, to even work better, optimize all your gene pathways, and I've never stopped taking it.
Awesome. And you have got a free 3 simple steps to regain your energy. We'll have the link in the show notes. What can they expect there?
Oh my gosh, you guys. Yes. They're literally about 5-minute videos on 3 modules. But I think a lot of what Sarah and I covered today is how can you implement a few things in your life of really to gain more energy, better sleep, and satiety? Because a lot of people just are eating to eat and don't realize, no, you can actually, what are some simple things you can do to build your satiety so you don't feel hungry all the time? And some people really struggle with that hunger hormone. So very easy. Take a listen, free resource for you guys, and really been a pleasure to share with your audience today.
Awesome. Any one tip on satiety you want to share now?
Absolutely. Honestly, my number 1 tip is very first thing in the morning, have ready for you, already ready to go, a room temperature glass of water, at least 16 ounces, 16 to 20 ounces of water before you do anything else. I actually do it before I even brush my teeth, because that's going to boost your satiety for the day, but it also is going to boost your metabolic rate 30 to 40% for the first several hours of the day. So your body's worked so hard to sleep all night long. it's gotten so dehydrated, replenish it from the very first thing, and then you're off and running.
Yeah, I love that. I used to go on like one glass of water a day and figure like I didn't have time to pee. Like this is crazy. And now I'm like always got water on my side. And yeah, I was on a kick of doing that in the morning. So thank you for that reminder to get back at that.
Get
Awesome.
back
I
at
love
that, right?
I love it. I
It's
love it.
simple, it's free, it's going to take you 30 seconds. So
Yeah.
perfect.
Any final thoughts for us today, Kelly, on our topic, inflammation?
The last thing I'll say is don't give up on yourself. Your body is the true miracle. You can really reduce this so many ways. And so I just would ask each and every one of you guys to take one or two things from what Sarah and I share with you today and say, what am I not implementing that I could add in my life today?
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Such a pleasure. Bye, everyone.